Today, we are walking into the Lion's Den. And now, before any Mercy player freaks out and gets mad at me for it, just listen to what I have to say, because I think you guys might actually agree. I think Blizzard is wrong about saying that Mercy has been performing well. I think Mercy is the worst hero in the game right now. I actually don't think it's close. I think that she is just absolutely awful, almost unwinnable with right now in this state of Overwatch 2. I'm going to tell you why today. So let's get some Raz in the bloodstream, and here is the Mercy rant. So post Season 9, a ton of things changed in the game, right? Mercy actually ended up being a big loser post Season 9 because she has to spend more time heal beaming players that have higher health pools, and with the DPS passive reducing healing, she can't really utilize her damage boost as well. On top of that, what people don't talk about is the numerous buffs that tanks received post-Season 9 with the headshot reduction passive, for one. For two, you can go down the list here, like you can talk about the regeneration passives, that tank got better, the armor that got better, the tanks themselves that got better, and then most importantly, her health change to 225. I guess let's hone in on the health change to 225 first, okay? So I think this is really silly to put Mercy down to 225. The reason why other mobility characters can go down to 225 is because they at least have offensive abilities to somewhat defend themselves, but Mercy only has the mobility. She's not an offensive threat, so the fact that she's that squishy in a meta where D.Va can literally fly around like the Rhino raid boss from the PvE with a time to kill that is better. That is better than a lot of DPS in the game is ludicrous, and it makes a hero like Mercy an instant loss when going against the D.Va because of the new armor, headshot reduction, and all the other things these tanks have gotten, on top of the fact that the DPS passive doesn't work on them as much anymore. A pocketed DPS hero doesn't do enough damage to actually kill that tank. So the reward for damage boosting or pocket picking a high burst DPS isn't worth it because they just get bulldozed by the D.Va or the Ramattra or one of the other super tanks that even with the buff damage boost, you don't have the stats to actually pierce. And I've noticed this. Listen, I counted the amount of Mercy players on the top 500 ladder in GM. There used to be a good amount throughout the ranks pre-Season 8. Now there are 3 total in Grandmaster altogether, and every single one of those Mercy players is in low GM 5. We were almost at no Mercy players in GM at all that were eligible for the top 500 leaderboard. So when Blizzard comes out and says, oh, well, she's performing well, and it's a bunch of platinums on Mercy with who is like maintaining a 50% win rate, you're not getting accurate data because the players at that rank are not good enough to get max value on the characters, meaning you're not getting realistic data as to how the characters are performing, right? And so you look at the meta right now too, okay? We talked about Mercy being 225. She can't sustain the DPS from the raid boss tanks running them over, especially with immobile tanks that pocket pick DPS used to be good into, that now can be speed ranked by Juno. Like if a powerful tank was going to get sped previously, it was only by a character like Lucio, right? Where he had low healing numbers to justify the ability to give speed. Juno can output the same healing as she can output more healing than every healer in the game. She also has the best ult in the game right now too, that like just literally it's just it's unbeatable. You can't really kill through it a lot, and they get insane damage. You can't really fight in it. And if you do, you can't fight in it for long. On top of that, what's been paired with Juno, which is super broken, is Brigitte, right? So if you're playing the pocket pick, you have tanks that usually, you know, a pocketed DPS could kill, like a Ramattra pre all the tank buffs, a Reinhardt pre all the tank buffs, you name it, any of these tanks pre all the tank buffs. They now have so many stats at base and such powerful backlines behind them with powerful ultimates that a pocketed DPS cannot do enough damage to justify the pick through them. It's impossible. You can't do it. You cannot do it. And with Mercy being at 225 and these other characters being at higher health pools with better utility, You just can't play her, or your whole team gets bulldozed if you don't have a Brigitte. Ironically, when going up against that Brigitte Juno comp with a hero like Ram, a hero like Diva, a hero like Orisa maybe, who knows? Ironically, if you don't have a Brig to also anchor your team and pocket them through all that damage, you cannot compete in the game. Your team will always lose because you can't really get the kills on the angle because it's almost like a death ball sustain comp. Weird, they got rid of the second tank. I wonder... So weird that the game is, defaulted back to that. It's almost like it's a design issue. I don't know. Who's to say that? We don't know. But, you can't actually pierce this consistently anymore. And I noticed this, you can't do it on Sojourn. You can't really do it on Ashe. You can't do it on Echo because her beam damage didn't get increased in Season 9. Only the Wit did. And Pharah doesn't do enough damage as well. So, it's not worth playing these characters because they're the big tank buster characters that allowed the Mercy pick to work don't bust the tanks enough anymore to make the pick work. So this is the drop off to them making the tanks super tanks again. 5v5. Brilliant, right? So it's just made Mercy fall off big time. And if you don't believe me, go look at the top 500 ladder and count the amount of Mercy players you saw, because there were at least 10, 20, 30 maybe previously. You're lucky to find 5 now. It's actually unplayable. You must play Brig, Juno, or Ana, or any other hero that really can supply utility to the team. So Mercy really fell off that way. Again, I think post-Season 9 in general, the DPS passive being what it is, has hurt her a ton. Not to mention, the DPS passive isn't actually effective against tanks as much. So again, those tanks are going to heal so much more. But, I think an easy thing to do for Mercy is that she just shouldn't be 225 health. I think her being 250 is probably fine, mostly because, again, she's got mobility, but she's not an offensive threat. She's not. And frankly, with how little utility she provides compared to Brigitte or any of the other power creep supports, which maybe the answer is to nerf other supports, which, hey, I'm here for it. I'm here for nerfing the most OP role in the game aside. I guess the super tank is the most OP role in the game passively, but, I think support controls the game so much. And, again, I think a lot of them are overtuned because of 5v5. But, it's just kind of sad because, again, Mercy, I get it. She's one of the most popular heroes in the game. She should not be the best hero in the game by any means, but she's unplayably bad. She is, I don't think that she should be as much of a throw pick as she is right now. I don't think it's healthy for any hero to be as much of a throw pick as she is right now. And the best things that you could do to Mercy are, here's a couple things. Put her back to 250 and nerf tank sustain even more. Tanks are way too tanky. And if you play the 6v6 code or you played Overwatch 1, the game felt way better for everyone playing it because every character was way more relative to each other. The idea of a raid boss superhero in a PvP game, regardless of the genre, if it's a shooter game, if it's Dead by Daylight, does not matter. It's a fundamentally flawed idea, and it takes away from player agency. It's just a bad design practice, and you're gonna have big swings for winners and losers when you make such volatile changes to the game in really any game. It's not even just an Overwatch thing on that front. I think Mercy was one of the biggest losers post tank buffs because you need to pick heroes that can kite and live the tank because you can't kill the tank anymore. You just can't do it. And so being a hero that's strictly an enabler that can enable a DPS to better kill things when DPS is by far the weakest role in the game and it doesn't have enough power to actually pierce consistently, your hero loses its entire identity, especially when they make her squishier. So look, I know that Mercy pocketed DPS is a very quote-unquote annoying thing to play against. But I'll tell you what, playing against a Mercy pocketed DPS is not nearly as annoying as playing against a Juno Brig speed boosting a fucking raid boss unkillable tank straight down mid at everyone and having them get bulldozed, which is exactly what happens every time you get a Mercy on your team. It's just the name of the game. And I'm telling you guys, I've played with the Mercy Pocket and Masters this season. I've done it. I can't win unless they go Brig. And the second they go Brig, the game is 15 times easier. And you can tell right away. Right away. So undoubtedly, in my mind, Mercy is the worst hero. Moira is way better because what can Moira do? She can AoE heal. Coalescence does good damage, and she can survive. She can fade and run away from the tank. But when that tank gets on top of a 225 HP Mercy, and all these tanks have had their damage buffed, all these tanks have had their survivability buffed, there's no way to live. It's over. You can't win. And even if you're pocketing a DPS and he hits every headshot, look at this. The main way that you would get kills as a pocketed DPS on a tank is crit shots, is hitting those headshots, bursting them down quickly, those big moments. But remind me how much headshot reduction they get on top of armor? 25%. Mercy damage boost is 30. It means you might as well not even be fucking damage boosting them, because if they hit the crit, which is how you would kill the tank won't die. You're not doing anything. You're doing nothing. You're just right back at default. And a lot of people don't notice this, but I'm telling you, Mercy players out there, you guys have gotten shafted here. And they expect you to keep buying. Well, let's be real. You guys are all going to keep buying the skins, but like, you know, you're putting this character out there. I do think she should be more relative. So that kind of is my Mercy rant for today. That's why Mercy is horrible now. I'll recap it again. Post Season 9 with the new DPS passive, that was a giga nerf to her because she has to be heal beaming way more. Her damage boost isn't as good, and she has to just heal. It takes longer to heal targets to full health, right? Especially with people hitting more shots, there's less time that you actually have to be damage boosting and doing all those things. On top of that, they kept buffing the tank's survivability to the point where it got past the threshold of where damage boosting a DPS was even worth it. Because even with that damage boost, they're not going to be able to consistently secure that kill. Because now the tanks have better armor than they did, the headshot reduction that they had before, and on top of that, your DPS passive only does 10% when all of the tanks got way bigger health pools and damage mitigation. DPS can't kill tanks anymore. Even when they do the damage, the supports can heal through it because they just have a higher base and way more healing efficiency on that. It's impossible to damage boost the kill. It just won't happen. So the tanks got buffed. Now they can bulldoze your team. And unless you're playing an anchor support that can anchor your team, heal everybody at once, heal and peel at the same time, and do damage like Brigitte, your hero's just useless, and they nerfed her health pool when it was not needed. So, that is my Mercy rant. She is the worst hero in the game. All you Mercy players out there, don't be fooled by Blizzard telling you that she's got good stats in Platinum. Do you know else who had good stats in Platinum? My grandma had good stats in Platinum. That's not an accurate source as to how good she actually is in the game, okay? It's random stats in Plat where kids are running around with like chickens with their heads cut off, and they're not getting the true value out of the characters, which accurately tells you how good a character is in character strength. So Mercy is not good. She is horrible. You can go look at the top 500 leaderboards to confirm it. I'm not saying buff Mercy. I think reverting that 225 nerf is probably a good decision, and nerf tanks more. They don't need all of that armor and 10% instead of 20. Make it 15 on the DPS passive so tanks actually can die. Look, you guys chalked the role in 5v5 anyway. It's never going to be fun for these people. At least let everybody else in the game have fun. At least let the majority of players have fun. Sorry, tank players, it sucks, but they chose 5v5. They chose to make tank worse. Don't make DPS and supports have a worse experience because, again, the tank players have to figure out their way. It's, again, an unsolvable problem. I think the minority of players should have to suffer instead of everybody else. That's my hot take. Ideally, we have 6v6 where you don't have to make this choice, but we're in 5v5 and you do. So, yeah, that's my Mercy rant. Thank you guys so much for watching, and shout out to all the Mercy players. I feel for y'all. Take care. See y'all later. Peace out.